Physical threat actors now bypass the let's talk about it stage and go straight to acting on their grievances, says Ron Green. That's why directors must take their physical security seriously. Welcome to BoardVision, the official podcast of the NACD, the National Association of Corporate Directors. We share perspectives from leading corporate directors and explore what makes boards effective, including how they can help companies prepare for the future. In this episode, Green, a cybersecurity expert and board member at SailPoint and Santander Bank, talks with NACD Program Manager of Digital and Cybersecurity Content, Dylan Sandlin. Together, they explore physical security for board members. They also discuss the connection between cybersecurity and physical security and how directors can anticipate and prepare for physical security risks. Have you heard about the benefits of NACD's certification program? Today's boards operate in a dynamic and rapidly evolving world. The National Association of Corporate Directors provides directorship certification that sets the standard for high-impact board directors. It's more than certification. This is the premier program, preparing directors to successfully navigate an increasingly complex business and governance landscape. NACD's directorship certification will enable you to demonstrate commitment, deliver confidently, and create real value for your organization. Learn more and apply today at nacdonline.org. And now, your host.
Ron, in the last episode, we talked about personal cybersecurity for board members, but now we're going to pivot to discuss the physical side of the coin. Can you paint a picture for us of how this cybersecurity risk kind of overlaps with and connects to directors' physical security? Because right now it kind of seems like the line is blurring between these two domains.
Yeah, Dylan, I actually like the way you phrase that, which is how do they interconnect? Because they've always been connected. It's just something that a lot of people haven't been aware of or haven't thought about it that way. The way we think about it, we think about physical security being one domain and cyber being another. An adversary doesn't. It's just security. And so, like most people think about the Secret Service when it comes to the physical protection of the protectee, like a president or vice president. But they've incorporated how cyber affects the physical. An example is the HVAC system in a hotel. An adversary might want to take advantage of it because they're trying to move a chemical or a biological agent through the ducting in order to get to a protective environment. Or just think about like the car that the protectees ride in. Great example is back in the early 2000s, the Prime Minister of Japan was in his vehicle and the electronics failed and he got locked in an armored car. So if you could just imagine if an adversary can affect the beast, the armored car that the president is in, and stop it, lock it, just create a stationary point to attack it. But physical is important for directors to think about today, even more so because times have changed. Public discourse has gotten, is in a place where it's less, let's talk about it. And it's getting to a place where, I'm going to act on it. If I have ill thoughts, I might act on it in a way that could be, one, it could embarrass, or two, it could actually hurt or leave someone dead. So the world has changed a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, and let's just use that as a jumping off point to get right into the physical threat side of the discussion. And Ron, I think it would be helpful if you could walk us through what are some of the most common physical threats that an executive or a high-level director would face. But alongside those common physical threats, what are some of the blind spots or lesser known physical threats that directors might not be thinking about?
You should look at your firm, the company that you're supporting. We mentioned on the last episode, getting a threat briefing. Understanding what threats the firm is facing can highlight some of the threats you should be thinking about as a director. If there's an adversary who's interested in embarrassing or hurting, or someone that's really out to hurt someone at the company, if they're thinking about that company, they can see you as an important part of that company because you're a director on that company's board. You're a director, and therefore, if I act on you, I can create the statement that I'm trying to make that will affect that company. So knowing that the company has people that have unusual interest in them, and then your company, they should tell you if your name has come up while they're watching individuals that are making threats against the company. I've seen that in other organizations that I've been a part of, where something happens in the media and it paints a light about the company and it makes people hostile, and those people think about that company in a bad way, and your name as a director may come up because you're a director for that firm. So you should be getting insight from the company. Now, the range of threats, I think one that stands out, like the United Healthcare, or the thing that happened with OpenAI's CEO, where someone's doing something threatening or potentially lethal. Knowing what the temperature is for individuals that are out there thinking about your firm, and then thinking about your own personal circumstance. So depending on the level of the threat facing the firm, you might need some protective support being a director. Be aware of your surroundings at all times. You don't have to be necessarily as paranoid as I do. But if you have routines, like doing the same thing all the time, that's a pattern, right? And people know and understand a pattern that you have and where you'll be at a time, and they understand your life better than you really think about it. You happen to fit this pattern because it fits your life and you love it like that. But that can be somewhere where someone can plan to interact with you. They may not be there to end your life, but they could be there to do something that's embarrassing to the company. So just think about your everyday. What is it you do, and how much of a pattern have you created that someone could take advantage of? Do you disrupt that pattern? Well, if your company only sells flowers and daisies and everybody loves it, probably maybe not. But if you do other things that could have people that are really thinking hard about the company that you're supporting, maybe you want to think about that.
Well, let's go ahead and kind of drill a little bit deeper in on that in terms of alongside a director's own awareness and a little bit of self-scouting, right, to spot patterns. What are some common physical security protocols that a firm might use to protect executives and board members? And alongside the protocols, how often should these be reviewed or updated to make sure that they're fit for purpose for the threats that these executives and board members might be facing?
Yeah. And so when it comes to, especially when you gather, alone an individual is less of a risk than everyone together in an environment. Depending on your firm, you may require the presence of physical security. So like, very visibly, there are people that are securing the environment that you're going into. Probably something directors may not be aware of. And a lot of the venues that you go to, electronic countermeasure analysis might be taking place before you get in. That way, if there are bugs or other listening devices that are in the environment that you're going to be in, the firm has already taken care of that. Like most directors, I don't think are aware that those things take place. I've done that pretty much at every firm that I've been in the security organization for, just part of what it is that we do. And then working with state or local, like law enforcement in the area. In addition to the security teams that you might have some local law enforcement somewhere around the site. One, to give an added layer of deterrence, like a visible, someone looking like they're a security person can be enough to deter people. If you put a marked car in and around the area, that can be yet another deterrent. How often should the program that is being used be reviewed? I don't know that I've ever reviewed the security program in detail with a board that I've been a part of. I do know that it's something that you should ask your security officers how often they review their site protection plans, because it's something that if you get complacent with it, you're going to end up with blind spots. And so I would say you need to evaluate it every time that you're executing the plan to see, after you've executed the plan, there's a, what did we do right? What did we do wrong? What do we fix for the next time? So it's not like an annual cycle. It's not like a 5-year cycle. It is every instance that you do a protective visit where you bring the board in, you get feedback, you make improvements for the next time that you go to do it.
So Ron, with the risks around directors and executives elevating in this environment, what is really the board's role in ensuring that directors and the executives of the company remain secure? Is there a helpful framework that you have or some best practices that you have for how the board can engage in this conversation productively?
As far as like a written framework, I can't point you to one, but a best practice is to engage in a physical security specialist to come out. But I've done it in pretty much every organization that I've been a part of. But you have someone with deep knowledge in the physical security of buildings, taking care of sites where especially where you're going to have many people at it, and then executive protection. So the up close personal protection of senior officials. With those 3 subject matter areas, if you can find a firm that does all of that, that's the right firm to come in, do an evaluation of the protective posture that you have around executives and directors of the firm. And then there are a lot of companies that will have special events where they have not only directors and senior members of the company, but you'll also have customers and different guests. When you have an event, especially a significant event in a smaller country, even the smallest thing that you might not spend a lot of time, like just the ability to people to move in and out of a building. If you're haven't thought about that and you end up with a congested area that would be like a fire hazard, that could be a pretty embarrassing situation if you haven't thought about it. So someone who's thought about events, and then just the day-to-day security of your building and premises. Now, you might not find a company that's capable of doing all 3, and then you would need to do like pieces, just get an assessment. How are we compared to the threat that is against us? Again, if you sell flowers and daisies, but you have armed guards and armored cars and stuff like that, maybe that's not quite right. But knowing who you are as a firm, what threats are you facing, matched with the appropriate physical protections, that's a good way to have a conversation. And knowing the right subject matter expert will tell you, they will tailor the review to the firm that you are. You might have a different profile.
Ron, are there any best practices or tips that you would give for directors and boards that are looking to anticipate some of these physical security risks?
When it comes to going to an individual event, just always be aware of your surroundings. How do you exit? Where's the fire escape? Where's the fire exits? How many floors am I going up? Like, just understand where you're going into and how to get out of it. If you can, you might get that briefing. Like, oftentimes I'll go to an event and people will say, well, here are the here's the fire protocols. Understand what it is that you're getting into as an individual. And then if it's a large enough environment, maybe it's something that you should actually share with everyone that's going, because maybe they haven't thought about it. As a director, you might not get into the detail of what's going on for the security surrounding, but if you have a moment and you can talk to the security officer, just talking to him, especially if it's a large event, leading up to the event, if it's a big event that you guys are going to, it's certainly something that as a director, you should ask about. Have we thought about the security of the event? Have we thought about the movement of people as they're at this event? It's a good question to ask, because I imagine someone's thought about it. But if they haven't, well, you can just help prevent something from going bad later.
Ron, thanks again for joining us for this conversation.
It was awesome. Thank you for having me.
For folks that enjoyed this conversation, please check out our previous episode in which Ron and I talked about director security with a focus on directors' cybersecurity.
That concludes this episode of BoardVision. We hope you enjoyed listening. Please subscribe and join us next time. Until then, visit NACDonline.org to stay informed about the latest resources NACD has to offer, such as memberships, certification, national or chapter events, and our content, including reports, articles, and Directorship Magazine. That's NACDonline.org. Thank you for listening.